Welcome back to 5 Acres Honey Farm. I have part 2 of our fencing video for our Idaho Pasture Pigs. They've been here for just over a week and we're pretty happy with the fence setup. And I'm going to let my husband explain the electrical part of it because that was the part he was responsible for and I did all of the physical putting the fencing in. So I'll turn this around for you. All right, this is Mike and you've seen him before when he explained the oxalic acid vaporizer setup that he had created for me for my hives, and I'll link to that video as well if you're a beekeeper. But if you're here just for the pigs, we're here to go into this unit, which is the mobile electric fence for the pastured pigs. So I'll let you go into that.
The Pork Zapper 5000.
Yes, I thought you called it the Baconator 5000 or something.
You call it many things.
Yeah.
So first of all, what I'm about to do is very dangerous. Sit on your knees next to the electric fence, but I'll start inside out, so I'll take it all apart and then put it back together. But we have the electric fence that's laying on top.
Well, you mean the solar panel.
Solar panel, sorry.
Yeah.
Words.
And we just used a Craftsman tote that he's modified for this.
So most of the stuff is in fact waterproof. It doesn't necessarily need to be in a tote, but I decided to stick it in a tote just so that it stays newer longer. The setup is it's a solar charger. So solar panel charges the battery powers the electric fence goes out, shocks the pigs and me most of the time, but so I don't recall exactly the capacity of the solar panel, but no, you said you're gonna...
I'll link to all of these different products, and so you'll see whatever the capacity is for the solar panel.
I don't want to take any credit for this because most of this was suggested to us by David of Cathis Farm.
Yes, so Cathis Farm, which is based in Lillington, North Carolina, he has a very similar setup, and so this inspired from what he had shared with us.
So the setup itself, solar panel comes in, and there's better ways of doing this, but I put everything on I use bolts of studs to run wires from outside to inside. You could also get fancy connectors, but this was easy and this is what I had. But solar panel comes in, goes to this Renogy solar panel controller, which basically takes whatever the sun's producing and turns it into 12-volt power to charge this just lawnmower battery that I got from Walmart.
Sorry, got the camera issues here.
The battery then connects. The battery is constantly being charged by the sun via this solar panel controller, and then from the battery there's two wires that go right into the electric fence. That's the Patriot. It's a 2 joule electric fence. Sorry, I didn't know the exact word, but originally we started off, per David's suggestion, with an 8 joule to realize that it can do up to 150 miles of fence and jump an arc about that far, which is a little bit more than what we need for these two little guys.
Yeah, and so to give some context, like David's setup was like for up to like 20 acres, and we're doing about 140 foot perimeter total fence with all of the paddocks combined, but we also have 140 foot poultry netting, which is acting as our perimeter fencing, mainly for predator protection now.
The regular electric fence, the regular single wire, double wire, anything that's up here, anything that's off the grass takes a lot less power than poultry netting, because poultry netting tends to touch the grass in a lot of places and it wastes a lot of power, so you need a certain amount just to power that. They say half a joule or so just to take care of grass load, but then because there's so much of it and it's touching the grass in so many places, we find that the 2 joule unit seems to do the best. It's strong, it shocks you, but you survive. The pigs survive, they learn quickly, the puppy learned quickly.
Yes,
so
the puppy will not come over here anymore. And after Mike got shocked, he just giggled for like 20 minutes afterwards.
Well,
so
5 minutes of waking up and 15 minutes of giggling. It's the thing that you don't realize, that we usually wear shoes. Shoes insulate us, and when you're sitting on the ground like this and with your knees down on the ground, you're not insulated. So if you accidentally or intentionally decide to test the fence out with your knees on the ground, you tend to travel in the future really quickly.
And also I think this is a good point because like David's setup that he had sent, he has it so that the solar panel is mounted on a fence because he has a fixed fence post. But since we're doing mobile in here, we just decided to rest the solar panel right on top. But if instead of having to kneel down all the time, you could have this elevated on, you know, whether you have a fence area or some pallets, and, you know, we're just a larger unit
And
storage tote.
again, most of the stuff is weatherproof, so this is meant to be outside. This is fine outside. Battery, usually you put in a battery box. I did it this way because it's easy to carry. It stays newer longer.
Yeah.
It's nicer. And where we are pointing the solar panel any direction would kind of be silly because the sun moves around so much. So just having it rest on top and getting exposure from every direction is better. Plus, when it lays on top, that's an extra bit of rain protection, which rain does not pool on the lid. Again, it just stays nicer. But in here, continuing on, from the actual charger, I think they call it, or the energizer, what they call them, the actual electric fence bit, I just have these 2 wires that go, again, 2 studs. Right on, and these are high voltage wires now, so stay away from those when this thing is on. And one side's the positive, which goes to the fence, which is just these 2 wires, and it's important to keep them off the ground even though they're insulated. This insulation is not rated for anything near the kind of voltage this produces, so it's really there for decoration. So
that was something that I was glad he told me, because if I needed to turn this fence off, like when I'm moving them into a new area, I wouldn't think anything of just like grabbing this entire piece. Right now it's off, but these would all be charged because this insulation doesn't do anything. So it's like you have to just grab the handle, or like I'm kind of curious why maybe the extra could just be stored along the side, or kind of similar how you did it over here. Where
it could be down there, I could snip it off. Just how it happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, the insulation itself, it's written right on it. It's rated for 600 volt, and this thing's producing closer to 6,000 volts, which it will jump. The arc will jump right through the rubber on here. But that's the hot. Goes to the fence. Goes to the fence, and you could disconnect one side. We just do that when we want to disconnect this side of the fence, or vice versa with the other side of the fence. And then on the other side, this wire kind of goes under the solar panel right here, along the ground to that. To that post.
So this is our ground. Yeah.
With one thing to keep in mind with a grounding post, the grounding post makes the electrical connection to everywhere on the ground, and the more the post is driven into the ground, the more contact the post has to the ground, the better the whole system is going to work. So you could either have one post driven in really far, you could have multiple posts driven in somewhat, but that's really important. You can't just lay it on the ground and expect it to work. You can't just put it in a couple inches and expect it to work. You actually need to drive the post into the ground a good amount. And
this is like a 18-inch?
That one is a 24-inch post, and it seems to be working as driven in most of the way. Ideally, it's actually recommended you get more than what it's driven in, but it seems to be working. But if it stops working, you put in 2 posts. The other thing that helps us, at least, is that we have fairly humid, fairly wet soil. If you're in a desert and dry soil, you're going to need more ground post, when more of them disperse to the air, because ground dry soil does not conduct nearly as well as wet soil, so you're going to need more grounding posts in order for it to work and reach further out.
Cool.
But so just do a quick rundown of how this whole thing goes together. Let's say we just set this up, we hooked this all up.
Now we have to actually put the power
attached,
and
so in the future I might,
because like this is what makes me nervous, is that
this is
like, see, like this black part here is not all there. You go.
It's
see, like,
okay.
I'm like, ah.
This is a 12 volt battery. It's not going to shock you. 12 volts is not enough to actually hurt you.
So,
The thing I might do in the future is I might put a switch on the outside for this wire, so you don't actually have to reach in to turn it on, turn it off. So you can just flip a switch right here. But right now we turn it on and off by just connecting one or both of the wires, and you can hear it starting to work. Now that's energizing the actual fence, and the fence is clicking, shocking the ground.
Yeah.
And looking over here, the solar panel is
back over,
charging the battery at 13.6 volts at, I think that's 0.1 amps. So basically that's how much power it's generating from the sun. 13 volts is what the battery is set to. All those other numbers I don't really pay attention to. But now that it's on, you don't want to touch that, you don't want to touch that. Put the lid on.
Snap and snap. Yeah.
And then we take the solar panel
and rest it
and
on
rest
top.
it on top. And the solar panel is another thing to show. Is they come with these, which I just learned about, solar panel connectors, and you could buy longer wires, or whatever kind of wires you want. You could put this thing basically anywhere, if you so choose.
So it doesn't have to be with the charging unit. So if you wanted to run a really long line and have it in a sunny spot, and you've got your pigs in shade or your other livestock in shade, then that might work for you.
Here it goes.
So yeah, so they're pretty happy, and they're in their new space. Anything else to add?
No, don't pee on the electric fence.
Yeah, don't create that arc.